I think since I was very young, I've always struggled to find what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I always thought a career in something or other, you know, an architect or whatever was the way to go. But every time I got to the point where I was going to go to uni or or move on to something else besides music, I had this awful fear, I guess, that it wasn't the right decision. And so I got to the point where I was like, you know what, let's actually make music what I want to do for a living and for the rest of my life. And so I did it, and here I am. Do you know what, I think the first time I knew something great was going on was actually the first practice we ever had, and actually the whole band wasn't there at the time. It was still being created, but Joe and Dave were there, and I sort of came down, and I think Sam came down to that one too. And we'd just finished playing in bands that we'd been in since we were about 13 years old. You know, there was quite an immature attitude with those, and it was a slightly different genre and stuff. And we came to the first Mallory practice, or what was to become Mallory, and we, I don't know, it just clicked. Like, we'd known each other for a long time anyway. We'd been in bands and jammed and played other shows together before, but this was the first time that we'd ever written as a whole entity, and I think that was the moment that I was kind of like, yeah, this could really go somewhere. This could really work. Well, I always said, actually, after the band that we'd been in from a very young age, that this was going to be my last go. I'd spent a long time doing music and stuff, and I'd missed out on a lot, I suppose, with things that I would have done otherwise if it wasn't for music. And I don't mean that I don't look back now with like regret on that, because, you know, it's maybe who I am today, and it's maybe where I am today. But you know, I thought, let's just be a little bit sensible about this. There's lots of things that you want to sort of check off your life list, so to speak. And yeah, and so Mallory was going to be my last go at it. So I'm kind of glad I really stuck it out, and that it did work, because otherwise I might be, you know, somewhere completely different and perhaps not half as happy right now. I don't think it's so much nervous and anxious about getting the music out there. It's about, I think it's about whether or not it will be received the way that you yourself see it and how you feel about it. You know, there might be songs that you write that are very personal to you, or to the band, or might just be very creative for you. You know, you might have had a really great time writing it, or whatever, but then it comes to getting it out there, I guess, and people don't know the backstory behind a song often. You know, sometimes songs are very self-explanatory as to what they're about, whereas others perhaps have like a backstory that is hidden, and they don't pick it up, and therefore they don't appreciate the song perhaps as much as the writer or people that were closely involved. So yeah, yes and no, I guess. I think there was a couple of times in our old van, it was a bless her, she was an old girl, and she all the seals on the doors had gone, and she was all rusted up, and there was leaks everywhere, and she was breaking down every other minute and stuff, and I think we were somewhere up north. I think we were heading towards Glasgow, and we were camping in the van in the middle of winter, I think. And it was so cold that I had 3 or 4 sleeping bags actually on me, and I was still shivering. It was awful, it was so cold. A load of the boys in the van had actually left and gone to sit in the actual welcome break or whatever it was that we were staying at. And they just stayed up all night, just sort of like trying to keep warm. And so I think I laid there in that bunk at the time, sort of thinking, this is kind of a low point. Hopefully it won't get any colder, because I think I might just freeze to death. But yeah, I think apart from that, I think generally, you know, the crew we have around us are great, and they look after us very well. So I'm very lucky. Oh man, I think there's been a few times, and I could probably go on about it a lot. I think the guys in the band say I'm quite emotional anyway, and I say thank you far too much, but I mean it. But I guess our album release show that we did at the Junction in Cambridge, which has always been like the venue for us, for local music, for bands coming out from overseas and other places in the country. They've always played there, and we got to headline that venue. We had done before, but we'd never sold it out before, and then the sellout happened. And there was a moment in our last song, I think it was Lighthouse, where I got everyone to get their phones and their lighters out and put them in the air. And I know that's kind of like a thing that people do anyway, but for me and for the guys, like, I suppose it was a weird moment, because everyone in the room, I think there was like 800 or 900 people there, every single person had their phones out. The lights went down and the room was lit just by these phones and these lighters. And it sort of just caught me a bit. It sort of made me realise what had happened in the past year and how far we'd come along and stuff, and it caught me a little bit. I think everyone had a little bit of a quivery lip during that part. I think he'd call me a liar and slap me in the face. I think I'm not gonna pretend that I had like a terrible terrible teenage years. Like I'd never say I did, because, you know, lots of people have had far worse lives than I. But, you know, I think we struggled as teenagers with being accepted into the social scene of it, I guess. Where we were in Cambridge meant we didn't quite fit in with the grand scene across the country in terms of alternative music, and we didn't, as close friends, we didn't quite fit into the local community of teenagers who saw us as being, you know, different and weird and you know, didn't really want to know. So we persevered, and I'm glad to say that we did, and we're here, and it's made us the people we are today. But I think if I told him we were doing some of the things that we're doing now, I think he might just call me a liar. But, you know, whatever. It means he'll be surprised when it came along.